rainbow, why, then oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh why can't I?
This is a reading of Scripture from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Thank you all for being here today to help us with this very sweet and very sour time of celebrating, and yet it is a saying of goodbye in many respects in terms of how we have so long known and loved Rosemary. That will change. And maybe in some ways it'll become even more intimate. Maybe in some ways we will cherish her even more as we draw closer to her in spirit. So thank you, Sal, for welcoming me here. Thank you for your good work in the community along with the great people of Douglas United Church of Christ, and for providing water and a great PA system, which in allergy season for me, and since it's allergy season, and I left my handkerchief out of my pocket, thank you for these, which I will need. I haven't preached myself to tears yet, but my allergies are acting up a little bit. And I thank you for honoring me, family, for honoring me with this dauntless and impossible task of being a bit of a mirror verbally to all of the light and all of the power of Rosemary's life. This is amazing. And part of our purpose here today is to make sure that we don't let that pass from our consciousness, because God has spoken through her life. And it is up to us to start to get to know her now on a new plane and listen to the sermon of her life over and over again. We come here today in tribute not only to Rosemary, but in tribute to the God she served, who is a God of resurrection, a mystery we'll never understand, but we accept by faith. Her Jesus and ours, who said, I am the resurrection and the life, and she who believes in me, though she were dead, yet shall she live. And as she lives and believes, she will never die. When Scripture says the same thing 2 or 3 times in a row, it's saying, pay attention. She who believes in me will never die. I don't know how to describe heaven for you. It was a word that was very useful in another era of antiquity. It still is useful to us because it speaks of enduring principles, but I think that Timothy Keller has probably come close as anyone of defining heaven as that ultimate reality for which we were intended in the first place. Ultimate reality. And we are celebrating today the ultimate reality that Rosemary is enjoying, and Rosemary will continue to enjoy with us someday. Jesus spoke of this in a scripture that's usually used at the end of a memorial service. In John chapter 14, to his struggling to believe followers, he said, "Let not your hearts be troubled." He was anticipating his own death. Let not your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms, and I go now to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I'll come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. You know the way to the place where I am going. But Thomas, good old honest Thomas, speaking up for all of us who are afraid to admit and face our doubts, said, "Lord, wait, time out. We don't know the way to the place where you are going. How can we know the way?" And then Jesus said it all. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so thinking of how that way, truth, and life manifested itself in the life of Rosemary Pulick, I would like to focus on her great spirit. That's one thing that you noticed about Rosemary right from the beginning, and that spirit hasn't died. One of the friends who wrote in on the tributes that can be given online for Rosemary Ernestine, I think it's Goodnow, perhaps, maybe from Florida, I'm not sure. But Ernestine wrote, "Rosemary had one of the biggest hearts in the universe. And her outlook on life was both beautiful and courageous." But I got to thinking, the world is full of people who have those wonderful qualities. Many of them are right here in these rooms. Many people are the rock of their families. Many people are lovers of nature and art and all things creative and lovely. Many people are socially empathetic to a wide range of characters. Many people are devoted to the needy and committed to causes and spiritually tuned. But there's something more. There was something more than those human qualities about Rosemary. And prayerfully, hopefully, please God, about us too. Something intangible, something that sells the package, something that makes it all slam home to us when we are in its presence. Something you can't fake, something you can't duplicate, something that is more real than we are here in this room. The Spirit. The only form of life God has created with Spirit. Spirit like God's Spirit. And that's what Rosemary had. I thought of the words of another great lady, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who said, and I know you could quote it right along with me, "Earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God. But only she who takes off, but only she who sees takes off her shoes. Only she who sees takes off her shoes. The rest sit around and pluck blackberries." Now I can hear Rosemary saying to me, What's wrong with plucking blackberries? I love plucking blackberries. But we know that's not the point of what Elizabeth Browning is saying. There needs to be more to our lives than plucking blackberries. And do we pluck blackberries even to the glory of God, as Moses did when the bush broke in flames in his path, and he threw himself before God and removed his shoes and worshiped and followed and served. Whoa. I think in the eternal spirit of all of us being one together forever, Elizabeth Barrett Browning was looking ahead at Rosemary when she wrote those words. And so my task today is to help us figure out how now we too, in this new moment, in our walk with God, can take off our shoes and see and turn away from so much blackberry picking, piling up blackberries, evaluating the quality of the blackberries, spending hours doing amazing things with blackberries. Wonderful.